On October 4th, 2017,
the deadly ambush of American soldiers. 4 Americans were killed in the October ambush.
the Tongo Tongo ambush unfolded, leaving a grim mark on the annals of modern military history.
That they were asked to try and complete and execute this type of mission with that type of equipment. I could not believe it.
This tragic event saw a joint patrol of U.S. and Nigerian soldiers thrust into a harrowing confrontation with militants affiliated with the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara terrorist group. This harrowing encounter, during which the Green Berets fought for survival, later became infamous as the deadly Tongo Tongo ambush. But what exactly happened on the battlefield that makes this story so insane? The Tongo Tongo ambush took place in Niger, West Africa, specifically near the Mali-Niger border. A convoy of 8 heavily armed pickup trucks departed from the village of Tongo Tongo in Niger, West Africa. Among the occupants were U.S. Special Forces and African soldiers on a mission to capture Adnan Abou Walid al-Sahrawi, a prominent leader of the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara. Shortly after their departure, the Special Forces were unexpectedly ambushed, turning the tables as they found themselves being pursued instead. Upon departing the village, the rear vehicles of the convoy were immediately targeted by enemy fire from a meticulously planned ambush. Initially sporadic, the gunfire intensified as the convoy approached a small forest. In response to the enemy threat, the soldiers made the decision to halt and disembark while receiving covering fire. Subsequently, the leader of the Green Berets organized a squad consisting of 4 Nigerian soldiers and engaged the enemy forces, successfully neutralizing 4 insurgents. However, upon eliminating the immediate threat, they observed something even more troubling. The gunmen they had recently confronted represented only a fraction of the enemy forces. Behind them, nearly 100 more adversaries were rapidly advancing on motorcycles and pickup trucks outfitted with machine guns, mortars, and various other heavy weaponry. Recognizing the imminent danger, the team leader swiftly returned to the convoy and instructed his soldiers to withdraw as rapidly as possible. However, due to the scattered positioning of the forces, the retreat was hindered and lacked coordination. Consequently, 3 Green Berets, previously tasked with providing cover for their withdrawing comrades, found themselves isolated on the battlefield. Brian Black, Jeremiah Johnson, and Dustin Wright, the trio of special forces, now confronted nearly 100 enemies without access to heavy weapons or air support. Employing the tactic of fire and move, they attempted to break away from the enemy, but the Islamic State fighters proved too numerous and agile to evade. Despite the Green Berets' precise defensive fire, the enemy continued to close in with alarming proximity. With each yard gained by the enemy, their ability to engage the special forces grew increasingly effective. Brian Black was the first soldier to get shot while he was running beside the moving vehicle, trying to protect his friends with gunfire. He died right away. Johnson and Wright shot back at the enemies before dragging Black to safety behind the vehicle. But when the enemies kept coming closer, both Johnson and Wright knew they might soon be overwhelmed. In just a few moments, they had to make a tough choice: leave their fallen friend behind and run away to save themselves. In the beginning, out in the open, they dodged the enemy's bullets successfully. However, Johnson got shot and fell to the dusty ground. Wright looked back and saw Johnson, badly injured, lying there with bullets flying all around him. Despite having an opportunity to flee and possibly save himself, he chose not to abandon his comrade to the insurgents. Instead, he dashed back and stood by Johnson's side, defending him until he, too, was struck by enemy fire and fell, badly wounded. As per the Geneva Conventions, individuals who are wounded and clearly unable to defend themselves are considered under protection and must receive care. In the video footage, Johnson appeared nearly immobile on the ground and was unable to wield a weapon. As the IS fighters disregarded the Geneva Convention and showed no regard for humane conduct in warfare, they approached within a short distance and brutally executed both severely wounded men with multiple close-range shots. Here comes the 4th American soldier to lose his life during the Tongo Tongo ambush, Staff Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. The American and African soldiers who successfully broke away from the enemy established positions approximately 700 yards south of the site of the attack. Among those soldiers was LaDavid Johnson, who served as the team's mechanic. When the group realized that they had inadvertently left 3 comrades behind, they attempted to reach out to the squad via radio, but unfortunately, they were unable to establish contact. Eventually, 4 Green Berets bravely volunteered to return to the perilous battlefield in search of the missing soldiers. As the rescue squad embarked on their mission, the forces that had recently escaped came under fire once more. Johnson, among them, retaliated by using one of the mounted machine guns on the vehicles. When the ammunition was depleted, he persisted in engaging the enemy with his sniper rifle. As the group faced the imminent danger of being surrounded by the enemy once more, the team leader had no choice but to order another evasion maneuver. The vehicles swiftly accelerated, racing away to evade the onslaught of enemy bullets. In the chaos, Johnson and 2 of the African soldiers were inadvertently left behind, with the assumption that they would quickly catch up and rejoin the convoy. Due to the intense enemy fire, Johnson found it impossible to reach his truck, which was exposed to the enemy from the driver's side. With the insurgents closing in, the 3 soldiers had no alternative but to flee on foot across the savannah. They sprinted at their maximum speed. Upon reaching the abandoned pickup truck, the enemies identified the escaping soldiers and promptly gave chase in their vehicles. The African soldiers managed to cover approximately 400 yards before they were overtaken and fatally shot. David Johnson, whose excellent training had endowed him with remarkable stamina, ran nearly a mile away from the enemy before making his last stand at a small bush. From this position, he valiantly fought off numerous enemies, initially managing to keep them at bay. Nevertheless, the mechanic was armed only with his assault rifle and lacked heavy weaponry. With no means of communication with his comrades via radio or phone, the family man refused to surrender and continued to return fire tirelessly. It was not until the Islamists closed within 100 yards in an armed vehicle and unleashed a barrage of bullets at Johnson that they were finally able to eliminate him. He passed away, alone with a gun in his hand, after enduring a total of 18 gunshot wounds. It took 2 days to find and retrieve his body. The valiant soldier left behind his pregnant wife, a daughter, and a son. Michael Perezzini and Brent Bartles served as leaders during the Tongo Tongo ambush. Alongside their American counterparts, they also coordinated the actions of the African soldiers. Prior to the ambush, they had voiced their apprehensions about the operation due to the lack of heavy weapons or air support. Furthermore, having been in the field for an extended period, they were in dire need of rest and replenishment of supplies. Despite this, higher leadership pressed them to persist in the search for the IS leader. Following the Green Berets and their allies facing enemy fire and having to evade capture twice to avoid being ensnared by the enemy, they found themselves relentlessly pursued by a considerable number of heavily armed Islamists. With the majority of the African forces having fled, there were now 7 individuals crammed into each vehicle, closely trailed by several enemy trucks during the pursuit. In the midst of the chase, 5 of the soldiers on the mounted vehicles sustained gunshot wounds. Tragically, 1 African soldier lost his life, while the driver, despite sustaining an elbow injury, pushed through the pain and persevered in driving. The impact of the gunfire was so severe that it knocked the Special Forces team leader off the truck bed, prompting the team to backtrack to retrieve him. Despite their efforts to evade capture, they later crossed paths with the 4 Green Berets, who had bravely volunteered to search for the comrades left behind. However, even with this reunion, the enemy forces not only outnumbered them, but also possessed motorcycles, armed vehicles, and mortars, with which they relentlessly attacked the American team leaders and their remaining comrades. The Special Forces found themselves surrounded from nearly all sides and sent out a final radio message, indicating they were on the brink of being overrun. Subsequently, they destroyed the radios and other sensitive information, bidding farewell to their loved ones via text message as a last resort for rescue. Perezzini attempted to seek help through the military equivalent of iMessenger, but unfortunately, the messages failed to go through. In his desperate texts, he conveyed urgent pleas such as, "We are trapped. That's our grid. We need help now or we aren't going to make it. We have no trucks. We need a show of forces. We need help, man. Brent is in a bad way. And lastly, Tongo Tongo is a bad village." Upon learning of their comrades' dire situation, other special forces stationed in Africa fervently appealed to their leaders for permission to assist. A group of Green Berets even hastily boarded a helicopter without awaiting orders to fly to the attack site, although they were ultimately forced to turn back. After approximately an hour, only 1 French commando arrived, accompanied by air support, to aid the survivors in their rescue. Throughout the Tongo Tongo ambush, 4 Green Berets and 4 African soldiers, along with the translator working for the military, tragically lost their lives. Despite facing certain death, their exceptional performance and camaraderie earned them all medals of valor. Dustin Wright and David Johnson were posthumously awarded the Silver Star, while Brian Black and Jeremiah Johnson received the Bronze Star. The African soldiers were also honored with awards, with 2 Nigerians receiving Bronze Stars for their actions during the ambush. More death does not make losing Brian any better, but knowing there is one less evil man in this world brings me peace, said Michelle Black, who authored the book, Sacrifice: A Gold Star Widow's Fight for the Truth, about her husband and the Tongo Tongo gunfight. Perhaps it will prevent other families from suffering terror at his hands, and for me, that is enough. Henry and Karen Black, the parents of Brian Black, expressed their gratitude for the French operation as well. Although nothing can take away the pain of losing our 4 fallen heroes, there is comfort in knowing that justice has been served, said former Green Beret Major Alan Van Saun, who was company commander of the ambush detachment ODA 3212. Van Saun said, "I am grateful for our French and African partners who worked tirelessly to bring this chapter to an end. But I know there is still a lot of work to be done to bring stability to the Sahel." The French Defense Ministry stated that the operation occurred from August 17th to 22nd in collaboration with the Malian armed forces. It targeted ISIS fighters in the dangerous forest area south of the village of Ndeliman in Mali's Liptako region. A senior French commander informed that al-Sahrawi was weakened following the elimination of 2 of his logistics commanders during the same period, after the French neutralized Rissa al-Sahrawi and another commander known as Ikare. According to the French commander, based on U.S. intelligence, al-Sahrawi was tracked leaving Manaka on a motorbike and was nearing the Nigerian border. Subsequently, al-Sahrawi was targeted by a drone airstrike, resulting in the ISIS leader's death and the capture of 10 of his men, as confirmed by French and U.S. officials. This zone is a red one, almost a stateless area. This is a huge thing and could rebalance the power at least for the Malian Liptako, said the French commander, who added that confirming al-Sahrawi's death took several weeks. The killing of al-Sahrawi follows a series of tactical successes by the French, who recently killed or captured several senior ISGSs, also known as Islamic State, in the Greater Sahara commanders, said Sahel expert Henny Saibia of the risk consultancy firm Manas Stream. It appears that these events and the question of who will succeed al-Sahrawi have created serious tensions within ISGS. We are talking about numerous number of 1 and 2 ranking commanders eliminated in just months. This means that it will be difficult for the group to effectively restructure and reorganize at this point. In a statement, Macron paid tribute to France's fallen troops in Northwest Africa. The nation is thinking this evening of all its heroes who died for France in the Sahel, of the bereaved families, of all of its wounded, Macron said. Their sacrifice is not in vain. With our African, European, and American partners, we will continue this fight. Not to forget that, however, the initial soldier helped with a clever move that caught the bad guys off guard, and the second Nigerian bravely risked getting hit by his own team shots, just to warn them about their error. Thousands of people came to the funeral for the soldiers who passed away. Their bond was so strong. It was like a special brotherhood that nobody else could truly grasp. So this is it, my folks. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video. Let us know what your thoughts are about this heroic story in the comments. If you love war stories like these, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. Till then, take care of yourself. See you in our next video.